Welcome back to the Aquarius training video series on the data correction tool. In this video, we're going to show how to use the chart manager feature, which lets you customize the axes and data within the data correction tool. You'll see how to alter the scaling, position, and appearance of the axes and data within the target and surrogate charts. To start off, we'll be in Springboard here. I've selected a few time series data within my location, and I'll just load those into my data correction environment. For now, I just want to focus on the target chart, so I'm going to turn off the surrogate view down here. We'll come back to that in a minute. To start the chart manager, you got to click on this icon up here, and this brings up the chart manager window. Over on the left-hand side of the chart manager, you see a list of all the axes on my target chart. You see I have two items in this list here, and that corresponds to this axis over here on the left and this axis over here on the right. If I select one of these axes, this list over here on the right of the window lets me customize that axis a little bit, and we're going to show how some of these options work in just a few minutes. For now, I'll point out that this target signal and that scale calculation method option over here, this lets you scale the target chart to either the corrected values in that signal or the entire signal. And I'll just show you the effects of that really quickly here. If I zoom in on this part of my time series,
as well as a centralized data store where
you'll see that with my axes in auto scale full mode, it's resetting the axes so that both my raw and my corrected data fit within that axis. If I change it to scale to the corrected values only and zoom back in there, you'll see that the auto scaling is only considering the corrected values in blue there. This is really useful so that when you're looking at data that has large spikes in it and you don't really want it to automatically scale the data to include those, and just include the corrected data instead. For now, I've just got these two axes on the left and the right. I'm going to add a third one by clicking this green button here, add new axis. I'm going to add an axis to plot my air temperature data on the target signal. So I'll label that axis air temperature. And down here in the curve properties section, I'm going to check these two data sets here, my air temperature from a nearby climate site and the air temperature, I guess, that's co-located at my monitoring site. The list in the curve properties here has all of the other signals in the target one that we selected from Springboard. You'll recall I selected 6 data sets before coming in, so these are the 5 in addition to that first one that I selected. So with that third axis and these two data sets set to plot against it, I'll just click the apply button so we can see how that looks. And you'll see on the target chart behind me here that I've plotted both of those air temperature signals here, and there's my third axis here on the right. Note that I can change the position of that third axis just by modifying this axis position option. If I want to show it on the left, I'll just click the left option, and it goes over there. Alternately, I could show it on both the left and the right by using that option. There, now it's on the left and the right. For now, I'll just pin it over to the right. If you want to remove one of these custom axes that you've added, all you got to do is select it in the y-axis list and click the red button here to remove it. Apply that, and the air temperature axis is gone. I'm going to go ahead and add another axis to my list here so I can plot my precipitation data on my target signal. In my curve properties list, I'll check my precipitation data set and apply that. And now you can see my total precipitation plotted on the target signal as well. And there's my third axis. this one here. Note that when I selected in curve properties that data set, I can change the color and to modify how it appears in the chart here. So I'll change that to be some kind of turquoise color instead. Click apply, and you can see the color was changed in the target window. So right now I've got my precipitation axis plotted on the right, and I've got it set to auto scale, and it's a linear scale. I'm going to change this option here to linear inverted and click apply, and you'll see that now my precipitation axis has been reversed, and it goes from top to bottom. Next, I'll set the scale calculation method for my precipitation axis and manually specify the minimum and maximum values. I'll set the minimum value to 0 and the maximum value to 3. Apply that, and you can see now that my axis goes from 0 to 3. I'm going to go ahead and add another axis to my chart here. I'm going to call this one flow. I'm going to add my calculated discharge on top of my stage signal here. So in curve properties, I'll add that discharge time series to my flow axis. I'll change the color to a purple and apply that. And you can see now I have this fourth axis over here on the right. Let's change it over to the left-hand side instead. There it is. And I want to show you this third scale option over here, logarithmic. Instead of plotting in a linear scale on the chart, we're now plotting our discharge with a logarithmic scale, as you can see over here. So at this point, I've got 4 axes on my chart. These are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next thing I want to show you is how any one of these axes I can actually turn off really quickly with this checkbox here. For example, I've got my target signal as stage, and I've got my field visits, which are also a water level. I don't really need to have 2 axes for the same thing. See, I have this one over here from 0 to 35, and another one here also to 0 to 35 feet. So I'm just going to uncheck this one. The field visits are still being plotted to that axis, but it's just not visible on the chart, which is what we want because the axis for the target signal is the same. Finally, I'm going to just close the chart manager here by clicking OK and point out that if I were to turn my surrogate chart back on, that's this one down here, and come back into chart manager, you'll notice that it also has a surrogate chart tab, so I can control the axes in the surrogate chart in the same way as we just saw for the target chart.